guys, tonight we are going to drift gently back in time to an age where castles loomed over misty valleys and life could change in the blink of an eye. Imagine the soft crunch of gravel under your boots, the distant caw of crows circling above, and the faint smell of wood smoke in the evening air. You're just you, modern, cozy, and tired, but a medieval person has chosen you, plucked you out of your ordinary life to step into their world. How long have you not had a deep sleep? Careful. This story will be so boring, you might not make it past the drawbridge without dozing off. So before we continue the story, give me just 1 minute. Tomorrow will be a long day, so rest a little at our bonfire. Let everything slip from your mind, take a deep breath, and relax every part of your body. Drop your location and local time. In the comments, I love knowing where and when our sleepy travelers are listening from. Now let's go together with the historical journey tonight. Your life changes the moment a clumsy young squire stumbles into your street. His cheeks are red from the cold, and his hair sticks out from under a dented kettle helm. He points a finger at you with disbelief, then bows awkwardly, muttering in a thick accent that his Lord Sir Geoffrey of Eastmarch has chosen you. The words mean little at first, but the crowd reacts instantly. A fishmonger's wife gasps, a shepherd laughs, and a gaggle of children follow at your heels as the squire beckons. You are no longer just a face in the market. You've become a curiosity. This is your change in social status. Overnight, people who never noticed you now whisper and point. In medieval society, moving between classes was rare. Historians still argue whether sudden appointments like this were acts of generosity, political maneuvering, or simply a whim. A blacksmith spits into the dirt as you pass, muttering about upstarts, while a cluster of nuns offers hurried blessings. Convinced you must have divine favor, or at least noble protection, your journey to the castle begins with a borrowed cloak and a strange sense of weight pressing on your shoulders. Children run alongside, chanting your name like a festival song. You pass mud-spattered cottages where old women press herbs against door frames, muttering spells to ward off envy. A fringe tidbit floats to mind. In some rural villages, it was believed that touching the hem of a knight's cloak could cure warts. Whether or not that's true, a little boy darts forward and brushes your sleeve before darting back with glee. By the time you reach the hill where the castle squats against a gray sky, you're already feeling the burden of eyes and expectations. Guards at the gate exchange raised brows and quietly bet how long you'll last. A jester leans from a balcony, shaking a rattle and calling down. Try not to trip on the first step, hero. Inside the walls, the world shifts again. Stalls line the courtyard, filled with bundles of onions, jars of honey, and the faint stench of tanning leather. The air is alive with clanging from the smithy dogs barking and someone endlessly coughing. Likely the castle cook, puffing smoke from the kitchen. Sir Geoffrey finally appears, a tall, stern man with graying hair and a gaze that flickers with mild curiosity. His armor is polished, but clearly old, bearing scratches like memories. You, he says simply, and it's not a question. He explains your role, not quite a servant, not yet a soldier, but something in between, a personal recruit, a half-squire under his wing. A living token that even a humble soul can step onto the rungs of knighthood. The other squires and stable hands watch from the shadows, Some smirk, others exchange pitying glances. You can already sense how this change will ripple. Invitations to drink, to dice games, to whispered jokes, they will come. So will envy, silent judgments, and the occasional accidental shove in the hallway. As night falls, your first bed is a straw-stuffed mattress in a corner of the squire's quarters. The smell is medieval, hay sweat and the faint tang of horses. You hear the muffled laughter of older squires sharing a crude story, then the slam of the hall door as the captain of the guard does his rounds. And as your eyes drift, the last thing you see through a narrow slit window is the moonlight glinting on the castle wall, a reminder that for better or worse, you belong here now. Your status has changed, and there's no going back to anonymity. The first rays of dawn creep through the narrow slits of the squire's quarters, and a damp chill seeps into your bones before you even rise. A sharp voice cuts the silence. Up move those lazy limbs. It's the captain of training. A wiry man with a nose like a hawk and a patience level somewhere below zero. Your second day? Your first rigorous physical training begins with a kind of alarm clock only medieval life can offer. A bucket of cold water splashed right onto your boots and toes. You lurch upright, coughing and muttering something unprintable under your breath, but the captain just grins. In this world, groans are as common as morning bread. Outside, the courtyard smells of wet hay and iron. The stones are slick from last night's drizzle. You join a line of squires and half-recruits, all yawning and shivering, some still rubbing straw from their hair. The first task is deceptively simple: run the perimeter of the castle walls 3 times, wearing an empty scabbard and hauling a battered wooden shield. The first lap is almost fun. You notice the rooks perched on the battlements, the sunlight catching in the moat, even the faint aroma of baking bread wafting from the kitchens. But by the second lap, your arms ache. Your breath feels like it's been replaced with gravel, and your legs wobble like boiled noodles. One of the older squires chuckles, calling out, "Don't fall in the moat, hero." The ducks bite. Historical tidbit. In the late Middle Ages, young squires genuinely faced a punishing physical regimen, running, climbing, and carrying weights to build endurance for the sheer heaviness of armor. A full suit of plate could weigh around 45 to 55 pounds. Historians still argue whether recruits trained every day at this intensity, or if some lords were laxer, but it's safe to say your muscles are discovering every forgotten corner of your body tonight. After the run, you're handed a long pole, a sword for today, and told to swing it over and over. Your shoulders burn almost instantly. An older squire counts aloud. 20 more, or the captain brings out the stones. You quickly learn this means filling small sacks with pebbles to strap to your arms for extra encouragement. A fringe tidbit emerges from the captain as he demonstrates squats. Some knights believed leaping over barrels daily improved the soul as much as the body. He even gestures toward a lonely barrel near the stables, its lid smeared with something suspiciously sticky. "Leap it or clean it," he says. You leap. By mid-morning, you're drenched in sweat and half convinced your arms will simply detach and roll into the hay. The courtyard echoes with groans, laughter, and the occasional hoarse snort. Somewhere a falcon screams from its perch as if mocking your form. A short break arrives, water from a bucket, and a hunk of black bread, so hard it could double as a training weapon. You collapse against a wall, sipping from a shared ladle. A stable boy leans over with a grin. Don't die yet. Afternoon's worse. When the sun dips toward noon, the real trial arrives, the log carry. 4 recruits, 1 thick log, endless laps. Splinters bite your hands, the weight threatens to crush your shoulder, and mud splashes your tunic with every staggered step. You think of modern gyms and laugh or wheeze at the comparison. By the time the horn calls for the midday meal, you're trembling filthy and oddly proud. For the first time you feel like maybe, just maybe, you could belong here. As you settle onto a wooden bench, an old cook clucks at you and offers a cup of thin onion soup. Good first day, he says. Better than the last one. He quit before sunrise and ran home to his mother, swore he saw a ghost in the latrine. Ghost or no ghost, you're staying, though your arms might file a complaint with your brain tonight. The sun hasn't even finished its climb above the misty treetops when the next challenge of your new life begins learning combat skills. Your muscles are still humming with soreness from yesterday's training, and yet here you are standing in a dirt ring, facing a rack of wooden swords and lances that look far heavier than you'd like. The captain of the guard, his hawkish eyes sharper than any sword, paces slowly before the line of squires. Steel later, wood first. Steel makes fools of you before it makes you a fighter. He lifts a wooden longsword and tosses it toward you. The weight surprises you. It nearly pulls your arm down like an anchor. Your first lesson is stance. Feet apart, knees bent, shield high. Or in your case, shield wobbly. The captain circles, muttering critiques. Too stiff, you'd be dead already. And breathe. A dead squire is of no use to anyone. You practice simple swings, overhead side thrust. Over and over your arms begin to throb. Each strike rattles through your shoulders. The dusty courtyard fills with the dull thuds of wood hitting wood. An older squire laughs softly as your first swing misses the practice post entirely and sends you stumbling forward. Historians still argue, the captain says, as he corrects your grip, how much combat skill a recruit truly learned before his first campaign. Some lords trained them hard. Others sent them out swinging like fools. You nod, sweat dripping from your nose, thinking that both methods sound equally terrifying. By mid-morning, the lesson shifts to spears. A long ashwood shaft is shoved into your hands. It feels alive, springing slightly with every step. You learn to plant your feet, brace for the impact of an imagined cavalry charge, and thrust toward the painted target on a straw bale. The captain taps the spear tip, scowling. Lower, in the gut. Higher for armor, lower for fear. A quirky tidbit emerges from another squire while you're panting between drills. Some medieval warriors smeared spear tips with garlic or onions, believing the smell would unsettle opponents, or at least keep pests from chewing the wood. You glance at your own spear, faintly stained, and decide not to sniff it. Not to. After spears come bows, and that's where your arms truly rebel. The string resists your pull with a stubborn strength that makes your back muscles scream. The first arrow looses with a sad little wobble before sticking in the dirt a few feet from the target. A stable boy bursts into laughter. If that were a boar, it'd be eating you right now. Still, repetition brings improvement. By the 5th arrow, you land one in the outer edge of the straw ring. By the 10th, your fingers burn with rope marks, and your pride swells. A passing knight pauses, nods once, and moves on without a word. A silent recognition that you're not completely hopeless. The practice session ends with sparring wood against wood. Your partner is a lanky boy with freckles and a smirk that suggests he's been waiting all week for this. The first clash jars your teeth. He lands a tap on your shoulder, then another on your ribs. You stumble backward, gasping, and he grins. Don't think the captain barks. Feel the weight. Let your arms remember what your brain forgets. By the time the bell signals midday, you've taken more wooden hits than you can count. Your tunic is streaked with dirt, your hands blistered, and your pride both bruised and oddly buoyant. You drag yourself to the trough for water, thinking of the soldiers in old manuscripts, inked in gold leaf, standing heroic and straight. Those drawings never showed the blisters. As you sit on the edge of the practice yard, the same freckled squire plops down beside you. Not bad, he says. You didn't drop the sword. First step to not dying. Then he offers you a half-squashed apple from his pouch. You accept, laughing. Maybe this is how all warriors begin, clumsy, sore, and faintly sticky with fruit. Your arms are sore, your legs ache, and you are fairly certain your back has aged 50 years overnight. Yet life in the castle refuses to wait for your complaints. This is where the true lifestyle change takes hold, the kind that seeps into every corner of your day. The first difference you notice is sleep, or rather the lack of it. Dawn is now your alarm clock, and roosters are your unwelcome backup. The straw mattress you curl on is shared with more than straw. Every so often, a little scratch on your leg reminds you that medieval fleas are alive and well. Historians still argue whether castle life was truly comfortable compared to a peasant hut. But as you itch and roll over, comfort seems more like a rumor. Meals are another shock. Gone are the steady modern meals or even the crusty street bread you once had as a townsperson. Instead, your day starts with a thick, grayish porridge, barley, and oats, sometimes sweetened with a drizzle of honey, if the cook feels generous. Lunch is often a chunk of cheese and onion and bread that might double as a weapon. Dinner is more festive stew, simmered with root vegetables, a hint of salted pork, and whatever herbs someone didn't mistake for weeds. There's a quirky tidbit you overhear from the older squires. Never drink water straight from the well if it smells like coins. Apparently, some believed that the scent meant angry spirits, or more practically, that it would give you the kind of stomachache that makes jousting a nightmare. Instead, watered-down ale is the common drink, and though it's weak, it still leaves you with a warm, drowsy glow in the evenings. Your daily rhythm shifts completely. Training in the yard alternates with endless chores, fetching water, polishing armor, brushing horses, and occasionally being volunteered to stand still, while a new page practices strapping greaves and vambraces onto you. At first you feel like a walking dress-up doll. By the third time you just sigh and hold out your arms. Social life is another adjustment. In your old life you could stroll to the market or nod to neighbors without a second thought. Now every glance feels measured. Some castle folk welcome you. Others see you as an intruder. The laundress winks and calls you little knight when she passes, but one senior squire mutters mud-born under his breath as he shoulders past you in the hallway. The castle's environment has its own soundtrack, the clang of the smithy, the gossip of cooks, the occasional squawk from geese wandering freely in the courtyard. And the smells, oh, the smells shift from day to night. In the morning, the air is heavy with damp hay and smoke from the kitchen hearth. By midday, a pungent note of manure drifts from the stables. By evening, roasted meat and tallow candles mingle with the faint, sour tang of unwashed feet. One evening after a long day, you find yourself wandering up to the ramparts. The wind cools your skin, and the setting sun paints the sky in gold and violet. Below, the village curls around the hill like a sleeping cat. You realize you haven't seen your old home in days, and the weight of your new routine settles in. Then a passing archer leans against the battlement and says casually, "Ever sleep with garlic under your pillow? Keeps away night spirits." He pats his own hood as if to confirm the superstition. You nod politely, though you quietly decide that the fleas are enough company. That night, as you lie on your scratchy mattress with the faint hum of distant crickets, it dawns on you the rhythms of your life have been rewritten. No more market strolls or quiet evenings. You're now a cog in the slow creaking machine of medieval castle life, half honored, half exhausted, and fully transformed. The longer you remain within these walls, the more you realize that your new life is not just about mud and swords. It is also about the health and life risks that hover like unseen shadows around every corner. The first true scare comes on a damp morning when you wake with a sore throat and a pounding head. At first you assume it's just from shouting during training, but the older squire across from you mutters, "Hope it's not the sweating sickness." You freeze. He grins, showing a missing tooth. Relax. If it was, you'd already be in the chapel. Comforting. In the medieval world, illness is everywhere. Fleas nip at your ankles, rats scurry along the edge of the hall at night, and every sneeze from a stable boy makes the room tense. Historians still argue whether castle life was truly healthier than village life. On one hand, thick walls kept out some elements. On the other, close quarters and shared bedding turned coughs into chain reactions. You quickly learn the value of the castle healer, a stooped old woman who smells of thyme smoke and something swampy. One day she catches you limping from a blister and immediately declares frog, spit, and goose fat. Twice a day. She produces a small clay pot and you swear the contents blink at you. A quirky tidbit you overhear, she insists, frog spit discourages angry spirits from your toes. You aren't sure whether to laugh or cry, but the blister heals in a few days, so maybe the frog knew what it was doing. Life risks are not limited to sickness. Training injuries are common, and even small cuts can turn dangerous. During one drill, a wooden sword smacks your knuckles, tearing the skin. By evening, your finger is red and swollen. The healer ties a strip of linen soaked in garlic water around it, muttering that garlic drives away rot demons. The next morning, the swelling has eased. Science or superstition, hard to say. Then there are the constant hazards of castle work. One afternoon, while hauling a pail of water up the narrow stairs, your foot slips on a damp step. You flail wildly, water splashing everywhere, but a quick grab from the freckled squire saves you from tumbling all the way down. He laughs until the captain scolds both of you for feeding the ghosts. Apparently, spilling water on staircases is said to invite mischief from unseen spirits, yet another superstition to file away. The biggest risk, though, is the one that whispers from the edges of everyday battle. Even as a half-squire, you're aware that one horn blast could summon you to the walls. The captain casually mentions a minor skirmish last winter when an unlucky recruit took an arrow to the thigh simply while carrying messages. Not dead, the captain says, with a shrug, but limps when it rains. At night, lying in your straw mattress cocoon, you think about how fragile medieval life really is. A fever, a slip, a careless moment with a blade, each could change everything. Yet there's an odd calm in the routine of risk. You begin to understand why faith, superstition, and ritual are woven into every breath of this world. A whispered prayer before bed, a garlic clove over the door, a pat on the wooden training sword for luck. The freckled squire notices your quietness one evening and grins. You're thinking too hard. Here, chew this. He hands you a sprig of mint from the kitchen garden, keeps the coughs away. Or so my grandmother swore. You chew. It's bitter, but you swallow anyway, feeling a little braver. As you drift towards sleep, your mind wanders to the croak of distant frogs and the faint hum of castle life. Health and danger are never far, but somehow the rhythm of it all is starting to feel like home. Your days have blurred into a steady march of chores, training, and the occasional bout of garlic-scented folk medicine. Yet a subtle shift has begun. You're no longer just surviving the castle routine. This is the moment of opportunity to prove yourself, and with it comes a spark of pride and mischief. It starts one misty morning when Sir Geoffrey himself strides into the practice yard. His chainmail clinks softly, and his gray eyebrows rise as he surveys the squires like a hawk scanning a field of mice. Who will volunteer? He asks, voice low but commanding. No one dares move at first, the silence thick as porridge. Then, almost by accident, your hand drifts upward. The knight's gaze locks on you. You. Fetch my horse from the lower stable and bring it saddled to the gate. Do not let him bite you. He turns and walks away without another word. Your heart pounds. It sounds simple, but you've seen that horse, a broad-chested, mud-spattered destrier with a nasty habit of flattening ears at anyone who looks like an amateur. The freckled squire whispers, "Good luck." He bit Jory last week, through the glove. Down in the stable, the air is warm and alive with the smells of hay manure and leather. A sleepy groom points toward the stall with a crooked grin. He doesn't like sudden movements, or slow ones, or the color blue, but other than that, you'll be fine. You approach carefully, murmuring nonsense words to the horse, as if you've been doing this all your life. The big animal snorts, shakes his mane, and eyes you like a teacher watching a first-day student. Slowly, you sling the saddle into place, fumbling with the straps, until at last you lead him into the courtyard. Sir Geoffrey nods, once climbs on, and miracle of miracles, the horse behaves. From that small task, a ripple spreads. The captain begins to call your name more often, assigning you to carry messages or help set up training dummies. One evening, the freckled squire mutters, "Careful. You're starting to look competent." That means harder jobs, Your biggest test comes a few days later during a mock patrol beyond the castle walls. 4 squires, 1 grizzled guard, and a chill wind sweeping across the fields. You march in uneven lines peering at distant trees. Every crow caw feels suspicious. Every rustle in the hedges makes your skin prickle. A quirky tidbit surfaces in your memory from an older stable hand. If you see a hare run across the road, spit over your left shoulder, or the patrol will end in bad luck. Sure enough, a small hare darts across your path. The freckled squire spits dramatically, and the guard just snorts. You city lads. And your magic spit. Halfway through the patrol, the guard suddenly stops and crouches. He points to fresh hoof prints in the damp earth. Your heart skips a beat. Could it be an enemy scout or just a wandering trader? Historians still argue how often castle squires truly faced danger during peacetime patrols, but your imagination supplies every worst-case scenario. In the end, the patrol passes uneventfully, though your nerves stay rattled until you're safely back inside the gate. When Sir Geoffrey hears the report, he nods approvingly and says, "Fear is the first companion of courage." It's the closest thing to praise you've heard so far, and it warms you all the way through dinner. That night, sitting by the kitchen hearth with a chunk of cheese and warm ale, you realize something important. Each small task, each test of nerve is a stepping stone. The castle no longer sees you as the wide-eyed outsider. You're becoming part of the story quietly, awkwardly, but surely. As you curl up on your straw mattress, you hear the freckled squire whisper across the room, "See, didn't fall off the horse, didn't run from a hare. Tomorrow maybe he'll let you polish the knight's real sword." You laugh softly to yourself, half from pride, half from exhaustion. The road to proving yourself is long, but tonight it feels like you've taken your first true step. As the days stretch into weeks, you begin to notice something subtle but profound. Your social relationships are shifting. Life in a medieval castle is as much about alliances, gossip, and quiet rivalries as it is about swords and saddles. It starts with the other squires. At first they treated you like a curiosity, a newcomer plucked from obscurity. Now they treat you like, well, a younger sibling they can still tease mercilessly. The freckled squire has become your closest ally, often slipping you extra bread at dinner or whispering warnings about which chores to avoid. If the captain catches you near the garderobe pit, he warns he'll have you stirring it with a stick to build character. The older squires, however, are a mixed bag. One of them, a tall boy named Roland, has started giving you nods of approval. In the yard, a silent acknowledgement that you've earned a crumb of respect. Another Simon delights in small torments, hiding your gloves, swapping your wooden sword for one that splinters on the first swing. Medieval hazing, it seems, is alive and well. Then there are the servants and workers of the castle. The laundress now calls you young lord, always with a wink that makes you blush. The kitchen boy occasionally smuggles you an extra slice of apple tart, muttering, "Don't tell the cook." Even the stable master, a gruff man who initially called you mud boots, starts sharing little tips about horse care. One afternoon he leans close and says, "Always pat the left flank first." Superstition, sure, but horses remember kindness on the left. You also start to feel the distance from your old life. Once you could stroll through the village and chat with neighbors. Now when you're sent to deliver a message to the market, people whisper and point. Some smile proudly, but others scowl, as if you've betrayed your roots. A local boy throws a pebble at your back and yells, "Castle Rat," before sprinting into an alley. You sigh, realizing that upward mobility comes with sideways glances. Historians still debate whether castle recruits were celebrated or resented by their communities, but in this moment the truth feels messy and personal. Even your relationship with Sir Geoffrey evolves. He still speaks sparingly, but his nods carry weight. One evening he invites you to walk the ramparts. The wind bites and the sky bleeds orange over the horizon. "You are learning," he says, almost to himself, "but a castle is more than stone and swords. It is people. Watch them and you will know its strength and weakness." There are quirky bits of social life too. During one dinner, the castle jester insists on teaching you a charm. To make friends faster, you must hide a goose feather in your shoe for a day without losing it. Supposedly, it makes you lighter of step and spirit. You try it. By nightfall, the feather is mangled, your foot is sore, and the jester is howling with laughter. At least the freckled squire thinks it's funny. The gossip mill never stops. You overhear whispers of a merchant's daughter visiting the castle, and suddenly every squire is scrambling to scrub their boots and practice polite bows. You're dragged into the fun despite your protests. "You never know," Roland says with a grin. One smile could mean a lifetime of stew and chickens for you. Through it all, your social web becomes a strange new comfort. Bonds of trust form in the training yard, in shared chores, and in whispered jokes during late-night candlelight. Envy and rivalry simmer, but so does camaraderie. Slowly you realize that the castle isn't just a fortress. It's a hive of relationships, buzzing with life, each thread connecting you to a future you never expected. That night, lying on your straw mattress, the freckled squire flicks a pebble at your shoulder and mutters, "Don't get soft on us. Tomorrow we spar." You smile in the dark because this feels less like hazing and more like belonging. Life in the castle continues to shape you, but now your mind is called to a different challenge, learning tactics and strategy. Muscles are only part of a knight's life. The brain must learn to read the field, even if that field is just a muddy stretch beyond the walls. It begins in the great hall, on an evening when the fire crackles and shadows dance along the stone. Sir Geoffrey gestures for you and a handful of squires to gather around a low wooden table. Spread across it is a map made from stitched parchment rivers like squiggly blue veins, forests drawn as little clusters of black trees, and castles marked by red dots. "This," he says, tapping the map with a calloused finger, "is where battles are won before swords leave their sheaths." He begins explaining the basics of patrol routes and watch rotations using beans and small wooden figures as soldiers. You quickly learn that knowing when to retreat is as valuable as knowing how to charge. The freckled squire leans toward you and whispers, "It's like a game of drafts, except if you lose your soup." Comforting, the lesson shifts to siege tactics. Sir Geoffrey speaks of building wooden towers, digging trenches, and rolling heavy carts toward enemy walls. He describes the terrifying power of a trebuchet capable of hurling a stone the size of a sheep across a river. Historians still argue whether most recruits truly grasped the complexities of siegecraft or if their Knowledge was mostly carrying rocks and hoping for the best. During one session, a quirky tidbit pops up from an older guard. If you burn horse dung in the campfires before a siege, the smoke carries messages to the saints. The freckled squire coughs dramatically, and the guard winks. You can't tell if it's superstition humor or just boredom. As the weeks go by, you begin to visualize battle movements even while walking the ramparts. The guard captain points to the far hills, asking, "Where would you hide an ambush?" You scan the terrain and point to a low grove near the stream. He nods, almost impressed. Not bad. Next time, think about the wind. Smoke and arrows follow the breeze. Learning strategy also means long nights by torchlight. Maps are unrolled and pebbles are pushed into formations, while the castle hums with quiet life outside. You start to notice the rhythm, the guard's boots on stone, the occasional whinny of a horse, the distant echo of a blacksmith working late. All of it becomes part of your mental map. One evening, Sir Geoffrey calls on you to explain the difference between a flanking maneuver and a feigned retreat. Your heart pounds, but the words stumble out with enough accuracy to earn a single nod. That nod feels like a medal. Later, the freckled squire leans back on his elbows in the training yard, gazing up at the night sky. "You ever think about it?" he asks. "All this planning, all these maps. And tomorrow it could rain and half the plan's gone to mud." He's right. Strategy is part wisdom, part gamble, and part trust in luck, or maybe in those horse dung prayers. As you crawl into your straw mattress that night, your mind feels as sore as your arms once did. Muscles win fights, but this, the quiet thinking, the moving of beans on parchment, this wins wars. And now a small part of that knowledge lives in your head, along with the smell of tallow candles and the creak of the wooden table. By now the castle is no longer a maze, but a home of sorts. You know which stairs creak, which doors stick, and which windows are best for sneaking a glimpse of the sunset. Yet the clearest sign of your transformation comes with the changes in clothing and equipment. It begins with a rough bundle tossed at your feet one chilly morning. "Gear up," the captain grunts. Inside is your first proper squire's set. A thick wool tunic, dyed dull brown, a coarse linen shirt for layering hose that itch against your legs, and a pair of leather boots stiff enough to make walking a small battle. Alongside them lies a belt, a dagger in a simple wooden sheath, and a pair of fingerless gloves. The first time you put everything on, you feel different. Heavy, a bit clumsy, but also proud. Medieval clothing is not designed for speed or comfort, and within 5 minutes you're sweating under the layers. The freckled squire laughs. "Don't worry, you'll learn the secret of airing out the hose before dinner." As the weeks pass, you receive more gear, a padded gambeson, a thick quilted jacket designed to cushion blows, and a rusty old helmet with a nasal guard. You place it on your head, and the world instantly narrows. Your hearing muffles. The smell of your own breath bounces back into your face. Historians still argue whether most recruits truly trained extensively in full gear before battle, or if they endured the learn as you go method. Judging by your clumsy first steps, the latter seems likely. Then comes the shield. It's wooden, slightly curved, painted with the faded crest of Sir Geoffrey's family, a red stag on a pale field. Carrying it feels like holding a door against the wind. Your arm quickly aches, but the freckled squire nudges you. Looks good on you. Try not to drop it in the moat. The quirky tidbit of castle fashion comes from the laundress, who insists that sprinkling rosemary and lavender into your gambeson lining will keep both lice and bad luck away. You decide it can't hurt and soon find yourself smelling faintly like a traveling herb garden. One afternoon, the armorer lets you touch real chainmail for the first time. The interlocking iron rings are cold and heavy. It takes two people to pull the hauberk over your head, and when it finally settles on your shoulders, the weight nearly bows your spine. Your steps feel like trudging through mud. Not bad, the armorer says with a grunt. You walk like a turtle, but turtles survive. Wearing all this gear changes more than your posture. It changes how you see the world. Stairs are trickier. Narrow doors feel narrower. The thought of running or swinging a sword seems absurd until you remember this is just daily life for a knight. Every creak and jingle of the chainmail is a reminder that you are piece by piece becoming someone else. That night you peel off the layers and collapse onto your straw mattress, feeling both 10 pounds lighter and oddly bare. The freckled squire leans over from his own bed. Funny, isn't it? First time you wear the armor, you feel like a hero. First time you take it off, you feel like a ghost. You nod, gazing at the ceiling, the smell of iron and rosemary clinging to you. For the first time, your reflection in the polished side of a kettle looks less like a commoner and more like someone on the edge of knighthood, clumsy, exhausted, and proud. The final step of your journey arrives quietly. One dawn, carried on the low blast of a war horn rolling across the misty fields. Today there's no training dummy, no playful jester's tricks. Today you join the castle in participation in military duties. You leap from your straw mattress, heart pounding. Around you, squires scramble into tunics, hose, and boots. Chainmail jingles, wooden shields clatter, and the freckled squire mutters, "It's just a patrol?" Probably. He doesn't sound convinced. Out in the courtyard, the atmosphere is a mix of urgency and routine. Guards tighten saddles, dogs bark in excitement, and the blacksmith hammers one last rivet into a helmet strap. You're handed a spear and a small round shield. The captain points to the gate. With me? Eyes open, mouths shut. The drawbridge creaks down, and a cool morning breeze washes over you. The world outside feels different now. Less like open countryside, more like a map you've studied under torchlight. Every tree could hide a scout. Every hill might conceal a small band of raiders. Historians still argue whether squires were commonly sent on real patrols this early in training. But your sweating palms don't care about the debate. The patrol leads through fields wet with dew, past peasants already bending over rows of cabbages. A few wave hesitantly, others just watch silent and wary. The freckled squire leans close. They say, if a fox crosses your path on a first patrol, it's bad luck. Almost on cue, a small red fox dashes out of the hedgerow. He spits over his left shoulder. You follow suit, earning a stifled laugh from a guard. Hours pass in a slow, tense rhythm. March, stop, scan, march again. Birds flutter from branches, and somewhere a distant bell tolls from a shepherd's church. At one point, the patrol pauses by an abandoned mill. You notice the faint smell of smoke in the air, and your stomach knots. But the captain kneels, touches the ashes, and grunts old. 2 days maybe. By midday, you're sweating under your gambeson, and your legs ache from uneven ground. You've had no real fight, no dramatic clash, but the experience carves something new into your mind, a deeper awareness of the land, the risk, and the fragility of the castle's bubble of safety. Back within the gates, the tension dissolves into ritual and routine. Spears are stacked armor hung to dry, and the cook ladles thin soup into your wooden bowl. The freckled squire slumps beside you. Well, he says, between slurps we survived, which means tomorrow, more chores. That night as the castle quiets and the torches gutter low, a calm pride settles over you. You've risen from anonymity to responsibility. You've carried water-swung wooden swords, studied maps, and now stood guard in the real world, however briefly. The final whisper of the castle reaches you as you lie on your straw mattress. A distant owl, the drip of water in the courtyard, the soft snore of the freckled squire. Life has changed you, inside and out. And now, listener, let the story drift like mist into memory. The torches of the castle glow faintly against the night, their light softening as the wind carries the smell of hay and hearth smoke. You imagine yourself wandering the quiet ramparts. One last time your boots, gentle on the stone, the stars peeking through scattered clouds. Every muscle once aching from training is now warm and loose, as if the castle itself has rocked you into drowsy acceptance. The fears of blisters, the weight of chainmail, the gossip of squires, all of it feels distant, now softened like straw beneath your head. Breathe slowly, as if inhaling the cool, medieval night air. Feel the rhythm of the castle in your chest, the steady drip of water, the faint hoot of an owl, the comforting thud of your own heartbeat. There is no rush, no horn, no captain shouting for patrol, only the lull of safety. Somewhere a horse shifts in its stall. A single torch flickers, its golden light rippling across the courtyard. The world beyond the walls, the forests, the rivers, the faraway hills, is silent and kind tonight. Let yourself drift with that stillness. Imagine the weight of a soft wool cloak over your shoulders, the warmth of a tiny fire nearby, and the slow, reassuring rhythm of footsteps fading into nothing. Each breath carries you deeper into rest, until all that remains is the gentle hum of a medieval night and the echo of your own steady breathing. You are safe. You are home in this moment. Let go of the castle walls, the moonlight, and the story itself, and fall softly into sleep.